hopefully can become higher, fuller expressions of who they're capable of becoming. So that's the first lesson that I wanted to share with you, the first thing that I was thinking about, and I really wanted to get this series off to a start with. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that you've got to figure out what turns you on. You've got to figure out what it is that motivates you. You've got to figure out what it is that drives you. You know, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out what is it that makes a difference in people's lives. What is it that allows some people to be able to succeed and some people not? How can two people be born on the same council estate and one ends up living in a penthouse, ends up living in a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bedroom house, and then the other person still lives in the council house? And there's obviously multiple factors to this, but one of the big factors that I began to realize very quickly as I started studying what made the difference in people's lives is desire. See, I've discovered that if you are more talented at something and I'm not, but I want it more than you, I will win. I have a higher chance of becoming successful, of succeeding, if I want it more than you, even though you're more talented than me. And what essentially I began to realize was that it's really, 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 really important that you discover what it is that drives you, what it is that turns you on. Because one of the things that I've also come to believe in life, and it's been something that I've been really thinking a lot about, is that you've got to get to the understanding that part of life is that you have to be able to manage your life. I talk about it as doing the maths. And doing the maths means you've got to, for example, doing the maths in this particular instance would mean that you've got to look at, okay, well, how roughly long do people live? Okay, well, roughly speaking, in the Western world, people live, give or take, about 90 years. Okay, so you've got to take away about 20 years because people have to get educated, and today you have to get educated up to 18, so in the UK, so you have no choice about that. Okay, then you're probably going to spend about 5 years partying, figuring out who you are, whatever. So do you see? So what I'm saying is, all of a sudden you begin to figure out, to do the maths, you begin to manage your life. And the reason I say this is because if you don't learn that you've got to manage your life, if you don't learn that you've got to figure out how things are supposed to go, because I say this because there is a lot of life is actually about timing. There is there's right times and ripe times. There's ripe times to do certain things. For example, there is a time when ideally it's ideal for you to have children. Okay? Yes, you can have children in your 40s. Yes, you can have children when you're like 18. Yes, you can have children when you're 30. But there seems to be an ideal time biologically when you should, as a woman, you should try to have children. Or as a guy, you should try to have children. Men can still produce sperm all the way into their 70s. But ideally, there is a time when you should have children. So what I'm saying is that part of learning as how to live and how to live a remarkable life is that you have to figure out how to manage your life. And what I'm saying to you is that in part of learning how to manage your life, you have to figure out when you should be doing certain things. Right? And part of that is that you have to figure out what it is that turns you on. Because if you, for example, I don't know, you're 30 years of age at the moment and you're a woman and you're not really motivated about getting into a relationship and you're not really motivated about having children, you have to be so intelligent to motivate yourself that you get that if you get to 40 and all of a sudden you change your mind, which happens a lot. And this is where now wisdom comes in. Because you have to be so clever that you realize, and you speak to women and you speak to other people, and you ask them, is there a very likely chance that when I get to like in my 40s that I'm probably going to want kids? And if you speak to most women, they'll tell you 100%. Now, I know you could say, well, Cassim, you shouldn't follow what other people want you to do. You shouldn't be listening to other people. Absolutely. But I'm saying that part of doing the maths is also you've got to incorporate the advice of other people, right? And and it's not just in terms of that. You've got to be able to manage your life and motivate yourself in terms of, look, if you've become a father and you're noticing that your body at the moment is really, 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 really bad, you've got to start be so intelligent, and you've got to do the maths on this and manage your life to the degree where, even though you're not motivated to work out, that you think, okay, if I continue on this current path of eating like this and being like this, what does this mean to my blood, my diabetes? What would it mean to my lungs? What would it mean to my health? What would it mean to my relationship? What would it mean to my sex life in 10 years? Now, this again is where you have to be so clever, because you have to be so clever and say, am I really going to change in 2 years? I say I'm going to do it next year. I say I'm going to do it in 6 months. But based on the way that I've been, is that likely? Because how many of us have heard about people who have gone 10 years and they haven't worked out, and they've gone, I don't know where the time went, Cass, actually. I thought I'd work out. I thought that I would improve my health. I thought that my marriage would improve. But yeah, just time passed me by. So part of that is you have to rectify. You got to be so clever that you motivate yourself, that you find out what your passion is. You know, I was listening to somebody recently, and he was talking about something that I found fascinating, where he said that, you know, it's okay if you have somebody come into your business in their 20s or even in their 30s, and they say they're not really too sure what they want to do in life, but it is embarrassing when you have a 40 or 50-year-old who comes into your business and you're interviewing them and asking them, why do you as a 40-year-old want to come into this job as like a junior with no experience in an area that you want to do? And when they say, well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, it was almost embarrassing, isn't it? Because it's like, what do you mean? How can you be 40? How can you be 50 and you still don't know what you want to do, and you still don't know what you want to dedicate your career to? Now, again, in me saying that, that doesn't mean that you have to listen and follow what other people are doing, or you have to buckle to pressure. But it does mean that you've got to be able to manage your life. So that means, look, if you start getting to 30, 32, 33, and you still don't know what you want to do with your life, you got to start, alarm bells should be ringing and start saying, right, okay, I've got to be able now to shift my priorities, and I've got to focus my attentions on figuring out this whole career thing. Like, I mean, I need to put exerted amount of effort, even though I can't be asked, and I feel lazy, and I just can't be asked. I've got to put effort into this. I've got to put passion into this. You know, I've been studying a lot of Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, because there's a book that I'm due to write about failure and the reasons why people are failing. So it makes sense that I'm studying Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. And it becomes very, very apparent that very quickly when you watch a few of these episodes, and I've probably watched God knows how many, I've probably watched like 20 of these episodes now, that motivation and desire and passion makes such a difference in the productivity of the restaurant. When you have somebody who owns a restaurant, who isn't passionate about it, who isn't driven about it, who doesn't have a huge desire for it to succeed, everybody else gets affected by it. And what I'm trying to basically suggest to you is that you really need to figure out this whole desire thing. You've got to figure out, like, what motivates you, what gets you going. Like, you've got probably about 70 to 80 years on this planet. You know, I've met people where they are they're in their early 30s at the moment, and basically they're like, I'm settled. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell does that mean? How can you be settled in your career when you're in your 30s? In your 30s should be that should be the beginning. Because if you're 30 now and the average person, let's say, lives till 90, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, that's 60 years that you've got left, okay, of your life. Are you actually saying that you are going to do and stay in the same position for, let's say, for the next 50 years, for the next 40 years, for the next 30 years. That is a very, very long time. And so you have to be so intelligent and think, okay, well, am I going to have to motivate myself maybe to move to a different industry where I'm maybe newer now, but I'm going to have loads of room for me to grow? Do you see what I'm saying? And so it's just something that I was thinking about really about looking at what turns you on, what drives you, what motivates you, and how important it is that you get this. Because if you don't get that you need motivation and you need to figure out what motivates you and what turns you on, you can go 40, 50 years without basically your life being miserable and you surviving instead of you thriving, right? It is very easy for you to coast along instead of you living abundantly and joyfully. And I just hope for you that you can be able to step up and be able to live in that kind of remarkable life which you're capable of living. So the last thing that I want to talk a little bit about is about the importance of why it is that so many people do not believe in their ability for their dream to become a reality, for their dreams to become true. You know, I think it's pretty